Welcome to the Strategy and Leadership Podcast, the podcast that brings you practical advice, lessons, and stories from senior leaders and thought leaders from around the world. The Strategy and Leadership Podcast is brought to you by SME Strategy, working with organizations around the world to create and implement their strategic plans. To learn more, visit SMEstrategy.net. And now, your host, Anthony Taylor.
Hey there, folks. Welcome to today's episode of Strategy and Leadership Podcast. My guest today is Peter Barsoom. He was formerly on Wall Street in finance and now is the co-founder and CEO at 1906. Peter, how are you today?
Fantastic, Anthony. It's great to be with you.
That's awesome. I'm excited to chat. I'm excited to look at your journey moving from finance into something super structured and then evolving into the industry that 1906 is in. But before I ask you some questions, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit more about you and what your company does?
I'm the co-founder and the CEO of 1906. And 1906 was built belief that many people are looking for alternatives to alcohol and pharmaceuticals and how they manage the demands of daily life. And that cannabis has been known throughout human history to provide benefits for a wide variety of different health and wellness conditions. But up until now, it's been very difficult to access cannabis, particularly in a medicinal format. And so 1906 was built on the belief that for people who are looking to use cannabis, not for smoking and not for getting high, but rather as an alternative to alcohol and pharmaceuticals in how they manage the demands of daily life. And that's the role that we fit in. So by giving people an opportunity to experience cannabis in a safe, accessible, legal way that is fast acting and targeted, opens up a whole new world of how to not just consume cannabis, but how to manage your mental health and wellness better.
Awesome. Well, so just to, we're not pro or anti-cannabis on the show, but really just want to focus on the leaders behind it. And one of the cool things I thought about your story is, your involvement and role as a strategy consultant, and then moving into this space that has so much opportunity, B, that is always changing, both changing because of consumer demands, beliefs, and perception, changes on the regulatory environment, and changes in your kind of product alternatives. And it's just so interesting seeing where society is moving into their needs and demands. But before I ask you really about how the product fits and how the industry fits and the evolution of the company, I'd love to just hear some of your thoughts as a strategist. How do you view strategy? What are some of the things that our listeners should consider as they're developing their own strategy and thinking about innovation? And I'll just kind of preface that, of course, we talk about strategic planning. We facilitate strategic planning sessions, and it's largely on the process of getting alignment. But I don't think we talk a lot around the kind of blue market strategy, blue ocean strategy. Like, how do you have that like product positioning, pricing, like alternatives? Like, we don't really get into that kind of thing of it. So I'd love to hear any of your thoughts on how you view creating a strategy for an organization like yours.
Yeah. I had the fortune of starting my career as a strategy consultant first. So had an opportunity to learn the discipline of strategy consulting, bring it to bear for large institutions. And in the cannabis market, we've got a really very interesting opportunity to bring together so many different disciplines as strategists here. Because we've got a market that at one level is very old. People have been consuming cannabis since the beginning of human history. And whether it was legal or not, cannabis consumption has stayed with us. At another level, we've got a very new market as well. New distributions, new products, new ways of positioning, new ways of pricing. So as a strategist, the ability to operate in that nexus of taking an industry that is new, but built upon some very solid foundations of consumer demand and consumer interest, and being able to innovate so quickly in such a short period of time, frankly, is a strategist's dream, because you get to try different things and get feedback relatively quickly. You get to identify which segments of the market one wants to focus on. So for instance, if you were a flower producer, cultivator, you might be looking into how to uh, um, gain market share within existing cannabis smokers. We were looking at it as, how do we attract new people into this existing marketplace here? So had an opportunity to really, we have an opportunity to continue to rethink how we're doing things, to continue to approach the challenges of cannabis as well from a destigmatization perspective. So it's been a great learning experience, and like I said, a strategist dream.
Awesome. I mean, I like solving problems. I like doing that stuff. So I could see having fun in that type of scenario. So let's take it like the company's been around 8.5 years. You've had to go through iterations. You talked about, and I don't know how you viewed it, if you viewed it in phases, the destigmatization or the acceptance or the product marketing. But without giving away kind of too much information or any secret sauce, can you tell us about the evolution of the company from a strategist perspective?
So we started the company back in 2015. Colorado had been open and Washington had been open for a year now, in terms of adult use legalization. And we saw a big gap in the marketplace, that much of the market was serving the high dose, heavy user consumers there, whether it be with high potency flower or with edibles that were very strong, sometimes inconsistent. And there were three major problems for adults. One is that if you don't want to smoke, right, there are three problems with what the edibles industry had at the time. You have no idea how it's going to make you feel. It takes way too much time to affect you, and you don't know how long it's going to last. And third is that it's often made with poor quality ingredients and things that you don't necessarily want to put into your body. And when we started, so our belief was that there is a large and growing segment of adult consumers who want to use cannabis in a functional way. And that if we could solve these three problems of making it fast acting, delivering a specific effect, and making it appealing to your body, that we can open up large segments of people who are looking to supplement or supplant their spending and their focus on large categories of health and wellness. And we looked at it as, look at how much people spend and are concerned with conditions like insomnia, anxiety, depression, focus, sex, energy, right? These are all the things that people have been using cannabis for since time immemorial, and they represent some of the largest areas of mental health and wellness spending. And what's cool is that it cuts across from pharmaceuticals to all the way to natural products, right? If we take a look at just simply the category of sleep, people have so many different options, and yet we still have an epidemic of insomnia, that it is a major problem that people aren't getting good quality sleep, despite how much money is being spent, despite the participation of pharmaceuticals. And you can get all the way, go from Ambien to chamomile tea, and there are solutions being proffered there for sleep. So long story short, that was kind of the focus of what we wanted to go after. We moved out to Colorado because that was the first legal state, and we had a big uphill battle, because the belief at the time was that this is really a stoner market. The only thing people want is cheap, potent weed. And we came in and we were the first brand that was fast acting. We were the first brand that was science-based. We were the first brand that was low dose. And we had quite a lot of stigmas that we had to overcome, even in the industry itself. And so I would say that the first generation of 1906 was all about proving that, yes, there are consumers who want low dose, fast acting edibles that deliver a specific effect and that they're willing to pay a premium for. And that's what we had to prove out in the Colorado market, which we did with lots of elbow grease and lots of hard work.
One thing I want to just highlight is that if, and then I'm just kind of being mindful of our listeners, and they say like they might have their own stigmas, beliefs about cannabis, but the same approach that you took could have been applied to apple juice or like chocolate or anything like that. And so what's just interesting to reflect on for anybody either already in a business or you're looking at creating a new market is that the key to new product innovation is finding a solution to a problem where no solution exists, or the alternative has big enough problems that it is unfavorable for certain people. And I have friends that are innovating in the field of toilet paper and locks and like a bunch of things like that because there's a core gap in the market. And so I assert that through your subject matter expertise, the opportunities, like you did your own market analysis and said, hey, this is not only an area, but a product ripe for innovation. Here is where we can disrupt it. And despite the fact that there is an overwhelming need, the biggest challenge isn't necessarily that the product is good or is workable, but it's really the product market fit and then the perception of the product, like New Coke or whatever it is. And that was not a direct reference anyway. Yes, so going through that, so great. Version 1, destigmatization, product market fit. You're in Denver.
So then kind of the second iteration of 1906, so we always started off with the belief that the right way to approach this is to ask the question of, first, how is it you want to feel? And second, how is it you want to consume? That people walk into a dispensary because they have a particular state that they want to achieve, not because the consumption method is primary. And the problem is, in the industry, we got it all backwards. You walk into a dispensary and the dispensary is all organized by here's the flower, here's the vapes, here's the edibles. And that's not the way consumers, in fact, shop. Consumers come in with a need state that they want to address. I have anxiety. I am an insomniac. I'm feeling the blues these days. And so then the next question for us was, if we talk about cannabis as medicine, why are people eating it as candy all the time? What is with this proliferation of sugary gummies with gluten, with gelatin, with other allergens, with calories? And why is that the primary way in which we're distributing cannabis as medicine? And so that to us was bizarre. And that the fact that if we talk about cannabis as medicine, it's not available in a medicinal format. And what is the most universal medicinal format? It's a pill. So here's another way in which it's important as a strategist to look at the data, but also ignore the data. Because if you looked at the data, you would have said, 80% of the market is gummies, and then the rest is chocolates and topicals. Pills were like sub 1% of the market. So if you looked at the data, you'd never say, oh my God, we should get into the pill market. But for us, we looked at it differently, which is, this isn't about the cannabis market, this is about the consumer. And if you look at the consumer is taking pills and capsules all day long. America is a society that uses pills quite widely. And so we don't have a consumer problem with people taking pills. It just so happens that this industry doesn't offer that format. And so we decided, the next part, and we were looking at a number of different product formats. So we were developing a drink, we were developing a vape, in fact, we were working on a gummy, and we were working on a pill all simultaneously. And as we got into the area of pills, we had a number of different observations. Number one is that most people don't like pills. The way it's marketed, the way it's packaged up, we often don't have like a great relation. It's not an exciting thing the way you might be excited about opening up like your can of Coke that you love, for instance, right? Very rarely do people get excited about going into their purse, grabbing that plastic prescription bottle, opening it up and being like, boy, it's going to be a great day when I pop this pill. So we had to, right?
Depends what kind of pills, but yes.
Yeah, right, exactly. But generally speaking, and so cannabis is also about pleasure. It's not just about health and wellness, it's also about pleasure. And so we had to what the challenge that for us that we set ourselves is, let's rethink this whole thing about pills. Let's rethink the shape of it so that it's appealing from a shape, it's easy to swallow, it's colored so you know which one it is. Let's call it something different than a pill, because pills have a stigma. So let's call it drops, and it's shaped in a drop. Let's not package it in a ugly plastic pharmaceutical container, but package it in a beautiful, recyclable, and sustainable tin with the name clearly on it.
Like
And
an Altoid tin versus like a blister pack.
exactly. Yep.
Cool.
Except longer, not flat like an Altoid tin.
Oh, cool. Okay,
Um, Yep. And so let's change the whole way in which we think about our relationship with pills, because while pills have caused a lot of damage, whether it be the opioid crisis or other things like that, there's nothing wrong with the format of the pill. It's the intentions and the people behind it.
yeah.
In fact, it is the healthiest way to consume cannabis. No sugar, no calories, it's vegan, it's gluten-free, it's all, it's medicine, all in there. And if people want a gummy, that's great, but that's candy, and that involves a whole other kind of flavors and other factors. But if we're going to make cannabis accessible, which is what our core mission is, then we have to deliver it in the most accessible format. And the most accessible format across humans is a pill that you can swallow.
Yeah.
So
It's
that
oh,
was
oh.
so that was our big product innovation. And when we launched that in January of 2020, it became an instant hit. So we were like, okay, we cracked this code.
A couple things I just wanted to touch on, and time flies when you're having fun. So just one is, the outcome versus the feature. Well, we talk about it when we talk about mission statements with teams. They get so focused on the how, they forget about the why. And the purpose isn't, it's the outcome that you're selling. And you had brought it back to the mission for people. And then the other thing was, just how you're changing the packaging, the effective delivery of it is so interesting. And what made me think of, I don't have any on my desk, is like nootropics. Nootropics weren't a thing several years ago. Now people are taking like performance enhancing things for work, as you would take a Gatorade or a liquid IV or whatever else is there. So moving into that category is smart, because you're moving out of the recreational drugs and more into the performance health. And I think that's I think that's super smart. Also, if you want to ever make a Pez dispenser, who knows, that might be a hit. If anybody knows what a Pez dispenser is. Peter, I know we're running low on time. We talked through version 1, talked through version 2. Now you're in version 3. So I guess my question is, what are you looking forward towards? And of course, people can connect with you and learn more about it. But what's
Yeah.
next for the company? What are you excited about, and what's on the horizon?
Well, what's really exciting is that we are seeing the end of prohibition right now. So we launched a month ago our direct-to-consumer platform, which allows us to sell 100% federally legal microdosed 1906 products with 2 milligrams of hemp-derived Delta-9 THC. And you can buy it online at 1906.shop, put in your credit card, and have it shipped directly to your home by a US Postal Service. So basically, this is the end of prohibition right now, and we are the leader in microdose cannabis in the retail dispensary channel, and now this allows us to grow and meet consumers where they want to be met. So up until now, we've had to open up market by market, state by state, and we've opened up 11 markets, but that's still 39 states that people couldn't access safe, legal cannabis from 1906. So now our strategy going forward is going to be a omnichannel strategy. And similar to the beer liquor distinction, our high potency products or higher potency products are going to be offered in the dispensary channel. And so those are going to be in the markets that we currently operate in. And now you can have microdosed 1906 products delivered directly to your home. So we think that this is a game changer for consumers, first and foremost, that they can get safe, federally legal cannabis medicine delivered directly to their doorstep. And then this is a game changer for 1906 and for the rest of the industry as well. We get to tap into whole new segments of consumers. people who are in Texas who don't have access to legal dispensaries, all the way, to people who are in legal states, but they, for one reason or another, don't want to drive to a dispensary, or because those dispensaries often serve higher potency products. So, and then finally, the next thing we're really excited about is this isn't just about cannabis. This is about microdosing more broadly. And as we're seeing, there's a big movement in the health and wellness and in the about microdosing of other substances. And so you can expect that we're going to be an active player in the broader microdosing movement, not just limited to cannabis as well. We expect and hope to be, the not just the number one microdose cannabis brand, but the number one microdose psilocybin brand and mushroom brand, once that becomes legal.
So, I mean, that's super exciting. I mean, so I'm a Canadian, and pharmaceuticals are done differently here. We don't have the same kind of monopolistic structure of pharmaceuticals and the culture of it and the whole, but it's just so interesting if you look at it as a contrast to kind of Eastern, Western medicine and how people like use natural products for that. I think that there's a culturally way more accepted, converse from like the war on drugs from the 19 whatevers before my day. So I think that's really cool. I think what I really appreciated of our conversation, I know what I really appreciated is just how tactical and strategic you were. It's saying, hey, let's look at this market. We've got some expertise. Let's create a space for us. Let's innovate across all levels and bit by bit, layer by layer, look at what we're doing. You're setting up the distribution channel. I think it's cool. For those of you that want to be able to like borrow these skills, the business model canvas is a fantastic tool. Spend some time with the business model canvas. It'll work you through each of those individual steps to help you think about it. You don't need to hire a strategy consultant, but you could, just bring some really, really smart strategists onto your team. So Peter, you already mentioned where they can or purchase your product. Where can they connect with you, and where can they learn more about 1906 as an organization?
Yeah, sure. I mean, you can reach us through a number of different channels. Our website is 1906.shop. Our Instagram is at 1906 New Highs. You can email me directly. I'm Peter at 1906newhighs.com. So any which way, if you want to reach us, DM us, email us, text us, or email me.
Awesome. Peter, thanks for joining me today on the call or on the show. It's been really fun, and it was cool to hear about your journey. So all the best moving forward.
Thank you. Take care.
You too. Folks, my guest today, Peter Barsoom, who is the co-founder and CEO at 1906. As I mentioned earlier, one of the cool things I really appreciate out of this is from a strategist lens, being able to look at new product innovation, looking at how to solve products that consumers have and really meet them at their needs. So don't get focused on the how, focused on the what and the problem statement. And then recognizing from a strategic perspective, it takes time and there's multiple layers to it. So we talk about change management a lot in strategic planning, getting people on board and recognizing that as you go through, there's new challenges along the way. What's great in Peter's case is that these new challenges have probably a big pot of gold at the end of it, but also it's beneficial for society and all people involved. So I'm excited to see how it goes. I encourage you as listeners to see how can you innovate, put more structures in place to capture those new markets that don't even exist, and don't get dissuaded because nobody's doing it. Nobody's doing it because it might be hard. It doesn't mean it's not a good idea. So thanks again for watching. My name is Anthony Taylor. This has been the Strategy and Leadership Podcast. Be sure to share this episode with somebody that might enjoy it, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Strategy and Leadership Podcast. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please consider giving us a review. We appreciate you listening and following along, and we hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. And as Anthony says, until next time.